for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
Hello, Mr. John, Asturias.
Yes, good afternoon, Clement. Are you ready for the call?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, you can start recording. I'm calling right now. I'm calling Mr. Brown now.
Hello, this is Mike.
Yes, is this Mike Carroll Brown?
This is.
Okay, good afternoon. This is John Asturias from Actions for Justice, AXJ. I'm a reporter, and we're calling you for a telephone interview. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine, John.
Okay, very good. And we have your permission to record this conversation?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, we have Clement Zabak, and he's our reporter from AXJ in Slovenia, and he is covering this information that you are about to confirm with us. Now, the reason for the call is we understand that you are an eyewitness to a UFO encounter, and apparently the date of the event, and this we need you to confirm, was on a Wednesday, August 6th of the year 2014 at approximately 9:03 p.m. Is that correct?
I will say all that is correct.
Okay. Apparently, the sighting location was in the city of Comstock Park in Michigan, and specifically around a storage area located at 3718 Alpine Avenue Northwest. Is that correct?
It is a storage center in Comstock Park. That is correct.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And the duration of the sighting was approximately 6 minutes, and the unidentified flying object was traveling northeast at an altitude between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you were, at that time, in this storage facility when you were able to film the unidentified flying object. Is that correct?
I was on the northwest corner of the long office building.
Northwest corner. Okay, excellent.
I have a question. How big was this flying object?
Okay, here's our first question then for you. Can you estimate its its size and weight of the flying object?
The size of the UFO light is about 250 yards long and 200 yards tall.
Okay, that would we'll turn the yards into meters for European measurements' sake. So it's an enormous spacecraft, apparently.
Yes, the laser beam is 8 feet wide at the start.
Okay, there was a laser beam that was coming down from the object to the Earth. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you approximately estimate the weight of this object?
Yes, my UFO light is probably 100 tons.
100 tons is what you're estimating this flying object at.
Yes. However, there is more to this object that is connected.
Okay. Were you able to record or film any more of the object than we've seen up to this moment?
Just a 23-second video, and anything caught in the entire screen.
We understand that you had only partial visibility and on an angle.
I believe the UFO light I video recorded and could see with my eyes was the business end of this whole UFO structure, and therefore other parts of the UFO did not need to be up, just the business end, which I video and you can see by eye.
Okay, can you explain what you understand by the business end? What was the reason or business of that flying object to be where you saw it?
My business end, it is the end to the means. What are they doing here? This laser or whatever is aiming at the ground, and they're here to achieve something. There are gypsum mines in the area, and it would make sense to gather data on the planet you're inspecting through maybe a laser beam for data collecting or analysis.
Okay, from what we understand, there are propulsion systems built around this gypsum mineral. It's like a crystal-type mineral, and do you think this is what the object was there to analyze in the mines under that part of the United States?
I believe so. There is power in gypsum, and I think there is a business about this. It goes way back.
Way back, are we talking Native American times or before?
The Sumerian tribe and the gathering of gold back then, harvesting.
This is very, very interesting what you're telling us, and we're going to investigate it further. I think this is something new. Are you familiar with the mines themselves? We understand that they might be between 6 and 10 miles, extension-wise, under the earth there in that location. Is this correct?
Yes, gypsum mines are in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I did not know this until a few weeks ago. I rode past the mines on the way to school a lot. I never knew that was gypsum.
Is there a reason that this has not been made public? we, the investigators at Actions for Justice, and I'm referring to an organization with 1 million members, we calculate, around the world, are analyzing all of this information and publishing it. Were you able to obtain any of this information from Actions for Justice, from AXJ?
Yes. John at AXJ has uncovered the gypsum story. I never assumed that. However, the spacecraft is appearing to be arising from that gypsum mine area in Grand Rapids, south of the Walmart Supercenter.
The Walmart Supercenter. Okay. I wonder if there's any
The location of my video recording area.
Okay, I wonder if there's any connection between the Walmart Supercenter and the mines. Do you think there might be any type of connection there?
I have heard also in the last few weeks from John that there are tunnels underneath Walmart. I never knew there were tunnels right in our backyard.
This is all fascinating. Let us continue with the interview regarding the light source, the beam that you've mentioned. Is it possible to make a spectroscopy of that light, and would you know what chemical elements it contains?
I think our technology could do that, especially scientists who are involved in studying light and love the subject. They will discover all they can, I assure you.
Okay. Then in your belief, the Jimson mines may be used as a fuel for this aircraft?
That is possible, given there is an aircraft. Yes.
Okay, that would be another question here. The aircraft itself, do you know if it was piloted or if it was just a drone with no pilot?
I thought it would have been a type of a phone from an alien. However, new data suggests with the larger UFO connected, now it can house aliens.
Okay, let's speak about this. Some people within AXJ believe that the so-called aliens are simply human beings from the future, sort of say. They're 100 years more advanced than we are, most of humanity, and therefore they're the ones exploring the Earth and have these aircrafts without them coming from distant planets to Earth. I don't know if you're familiar with this theory or not. What could you give us your opinion on what you saw, based on what you saw?
Well, several people on Facebook believe that it is an interdimensional spacecraft, so it does appear to look like it may time travel. It even has a trigonometry scientist believing that the scatter of light in front of it is a speed in which I do not understand.
Okay, this will leave for further investigation. One final question right now would be, do you have night vision videos or photos of UFO?
I do not. I believe time of video, your night vision should be engaged. However, I haven't found a filter for night vision over this old UFO, which would be great, I would suspect.
Okay, excellent. Let me just ask our reporter from Europe if he has any other questions.
If you have established any contact, official contact with government or CIA or NASA about this event?
Yes, many. I started we don't do UFOs. I have discussed this with many other agencies. Retired Air Force captain, he owns this is UFO, and he gave this to his CIA friends. They put this on a supercomputer, and the data is it's an 8-foot wide beam of light that is tested and is not wood or steel. It is a light, and it is all 1,500 feet off the ground, going from the ship to the ground while reflecting or changing direction as the beam moves through air or water. The beam widens to over 30 feet at 30, and the beam is acting like a whirlpool. I said like a tornado, and he said it's a whirlpool, where it is almost like a vortex, you could believe, from the ship down.
Wow. Okay, this is all fascinating.
Amazing, yes.
CIA said, do not worry, it is not a stadium light. It is bigger than any stadium light we have built.
Okay, so we're talking about very
It
advanced
is a
technology.
light.
Very advanced technology, something that we have not seen on Earth presently, or are you aware of any similar sightings of this?
Yes, there was a drone 40 minutes or so later that is on radar from Coopersville that the trigonometry scientist claims this photo of a UFO is actually that drone. However, the beam is a light. It is not rocket glue. CIA would know. There are sightings 3 days later in North Florida from a former MIT quantum physicist, theorist. He also worked at NASA and in Florida law enforcement. His photo 3 days later in North Florida looks to be like my UFO, only he has the white diamond and nothing more, though he said it did have a beam coming down, but he is colorblind, and he said this took off to the speed of light in a few seconds. He was amazed.
Well, we don't want to take up any more time on this initial interview, which I imagine will be the first of many. But we do want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, yes.
We want to let you know that you are in good hands. Our organization, Actions for Justice, has created a department to deal specifically with UFOs and with your encounter. We are working very closely with all other organizations that are willing to work with us. We are independent, and we are happy to work with public organizations and governments, but we do not follow their directives. They must understand this. We believe that the peoples of the world have the right to know what is going on this planet, and have the right to know exactly what is being done regarding any other encounters with these beings, be they of earthling origin or of alien extraterrestrial origin. So do we have your permission to continue our activities of investigating and interviewing you for more information and any other evidence you may be able to give us regarding this encounter?
Yes, the evidence is yours to have.
Okay, Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Europe, if they have any other questions.
No, thank you very much. I'm very glad to hear this story. Yes, fantastic.
Okay, well, thank you so much then, and we'll let you go for the rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, I trust you. They're out there. Thank you.
Okay.
Pleasure.
Wow. Če se malo pohesati, če pridejo nezemljani na zemljo, boste vi spostavili prvi stik z njimi.
Veste koga, to je pa taka zadeva, ker extra aliens jih ni.
Aha.
Eni pravijo, pred letom je en rekel, zakaj NASA laže, ker jih ima alien živo v hladilnikih.
Ja.
In se mu zatrdil, da NASA ne laže, ker jih ne more imeti v hladilnik, ker jih enostavno ni.
Ja.
Še, ne vemo, da bi bili.
The crew required information on the current position of the S-4B, the final stage of the rocket which had been jettisoned away 2 days earlier. This short message hid an extraordinary turn of events. Apollo 11 wasn't alone in space.
There was something out there that was close enough to be observed, and what could it be?
Traveling alongside Apollo 11 was a mysterious object, like this one filmed on a later mission. If the object wasn't part of Apollo's rocket, it could be only one thing: a UFO.
Mike decided he thought he could see it in the telescope, and he was able to do that. And when it was in one position, that had a series of ellipses. But when you made it real sharp, it was sort of L-shaped. That didn't tell us very much. Now, obviously, the three of us were not going to blurt out, "Hey, Houston, we got something moving alongside of us, and we don't know what it is. You know, can you tell us what it is?" We weren't about to do that, because we know that those transmissions would be heard by all sorts of people, and who knows what somebody would have demanded that we turn back because of aliens or whatever the reason is. So we didn't do that, but we did decide we just cautiously ask Houston, how far away was the S-4B?
Unaware of the drama unfolding in space, Mission Control radioed the position back to Apollo 11.
Apollo 11, Houston, the S-4B is about 6,000 nautical miles from you now, over.
And a few moments later, they came back and said something like it was 6,000 miles away because of the maneuver. So we really didn't think we were looking at something that far away. So we decided that after a while of watching it, it was time to go to sleep and not to talk about it anymore until we came back in debriefing.
To this day, whatever it was the crew saw has never been positively identified or officially acknowledged.
Well, there's a whole range of experiences as well. It's in the literature from military people who have had encounters in flight and been vectored to chase unidentified objects, people who have official positions whose job was to know about possible extraterrestrial visitation and to do something with it, people within government. And those are the more credible sources because they've had hands-on, first-hand experience with all of this. Whether they come forward or not is up to them. It's, if they want to come out with their information, if they don't feel that they're under security constraints and they somehow get relief or amnesty from any oaths of security, then I would hope they would come forward. Well, my interest basically is what's the nature of the universe we live in? What is our relationship to the larger reality? If that's a part of the larger reality and we're denying it, that to me is unconscionable. I don't live that way. If I went into space to learn about the universe we live in, to get new insights, to go beyond the boundaries of our known existence. And if these phenomena are really indicators of new information about the cosmos at all and intelligent life in the cosmos and our ability to travel in the cosmos, as circumstantial evidence would suggest, then we ought to get to the bottom of it. It's just my curiosity that drives me. Well, we have sightings of all sorts. We've been reported thousands and thousands of sightings for 50 years or so. Large numbers of those sightings are indeed misperceiving natural phenomena in some way. But a large number of them are not misperceiving. They seem to be well-documented events that represent flying craft that do not match anything we have in an earthbound arsenal. I cannot answer that. I cannot answer who are these people, but there's a lot of evidence that points to what I call a clandestine group, people who have some quasi-affiliation with government and use certain government facilities, but operate in a rather very stealth and secret way that is not generally under high-level governmental control as far as we can tell. Yes, there has been ET visitation and may continue to be. There has been craft that have been recovered. There has been a certain amount of reverse engineering that has allowed some of these craft or some components to be duplicated, and that there are humanoids from our planet, Earthlings, who are utilizing some of this equipment in certain ways, and that perhaps a large part of the activity that's classified as UFO activity, abductions and a whole host of this type of activity, may very well not be due to ET activity at all. I would suspect if any is due to ET activity, it's a rather small part, and that a larger portion is due to humanoid type activity, earthling type activity. Well, I will stop short of attaching motivation to this. I don't know the motivation. But if it's normal human motivation, it has to do with power and control and greed and money and so forth. Those type of craft, humongous, very, very large craft, the size, so-called, or reportedly, the size of many football fields, that would be very hard to manufacture, conceal, and operate from an Earth base. It would seem, if that account is true at all, it probably would have to be something beyond this realm. I think it's long past time to open this up to the public because they don't know what to do about it anyhow. I do not see anything that suggests really malevolent intent on the part of, if there are ETs at all, and I have to place the caveat, if there are ETs at all, I don't see anything that represents hostile intent. We see things that, like abductions, for example, that many would claim are hostile. To the extent that that may be true, I would more likely attribute it to some other cause. There is evidence, there is a mountain of evidence, if you will, that essentially amounts to smoking gun evidence that has not been and seemingly cannot be brought forward at this point, at least not by the powers of government, or not by anything I know about. But it seems to exist. There is disinformation. The question of has it been kept secret, or how could it be kept secret? It hasn't been kept secret. It's been there all along. But it has been the subject of disinformation in order to deflect attention and to create confusion so that the truth doesn't come out. Disinformation is simply another method of stonewalling. And that's been used consistently for the last 50 years or so. Weather balloons over Roswell as opposed to a crashed craft of some sort. That's disinformation. We've seen that for 50 years. And it's the best way to hide something. It shouldn't be any more of an effect that ETs have come here than that we have gone to the moon. Okay, it's just a part of the way things are. And we have to understand it and put it in context of the story of ourselves, our knowledge base of cosmology, the nature of our existence, who are we, how does the world work? And of course that knowledge does change our understanding of how the world, or the universe at large, works. Because until the current period, or until the last 30 years, it was conventional wisdom, both in science and theology. We're alone in the universe, single repository of life, anywhere in the known universe. Well, no one believes that anymore. That changes our concept of who we are and how we fit. And it's becoming very clear that the way we have conducted ourselves as stewards of life on planet Earth is wanting. We haven't been good stewards. We have environmental, global problems right now that are bringing civilization to a crisis. And people don't want to hear that. But it's slowly becoming obvious that that is true. So this knowledge of who we are, how we manage a planet, how we fit into the larger scheme of things is a very important question.
My name is George A. Filer III. I don't normally use the third. But I was in the U.S. Air Force, and my final rank was major. Well, I was normally, like I mentioned, a briefing officer, and I would come to work 4 o'clock or so in the morning. And on the morning of January 18th, 1978, I drove through the main gate at McGuire, and I noticed that there was red lights out on the runway, and that probably something was going on out on the runways there because of all the red lights and like police cars and fire trucks and so on. I was a deputy Director of Intelligence for 21st Air Force, which controlled, well, half the military aircraft and flew the presidents and various VIPs and from the Mississippi River around to India. And this particular morning when I went into the command post, I was met by the head of the command post, and he said it's been a very exciting evening, that we've had UFOs in the, over the McGuire all night, and that one had apparently landed or possibly crashed at Fort Dix. and that when a military policeman came upon the alien, that he had pulled out a gun and shot them. And I said, you know, a foreigner, like, you know, an alien? I was a little bit confused by him saying alien. He says, no, an alien from outer space. He was very specific about the fact that an alien from outer space had been shot at Fort Dix, and that it had run away after being wounded and headed for McGuire. Now, McGuire and Fort Dix just have a fence between them, and this alien supposedly climbed the fence or went under it or whatever and got to McGuire and died out on the end of the runway. And that the security police were out there and had captured the body, so to speak, and were guarding it. And he said that a C-141 from Wright-Patterson was coming in to pick up the plane. So I was like, you know, my gosh, what's going on here? And he says, we want you to brief this at the, you know, stand-up general briefing this morning and explain what happened to everybody. And I was like, do you want me to tell General Tom Sadler and everybody in the command post that, you know, we captured an alien? And they said, yes, we want you to brief that. Now, after the briefing, I also went to the photo lab. Almost every day I went to the photo lab because in your briefings you have, well, 4 screens and you have to keep them all, you know, filled up with pretty pictures and so on. And there they indicated that they had taken pictures of something extraordinary. And I said, well, let me see them. And the sergeant was handing it to me, and his master sergeant says he can't see those. So all I know is that they had some pictures that I wasn't allowed to see. But normally, being the general's briefer, I had never been, you know, stopped from seeing any pictures that they had previously. There is nuclear assets on the base that they used to carry weapons back and forth to Europe and so on. I had done some checking around because I became interested. I talked to one of the security policemen who claims to have been out there, and he indicated that he essentially saw a small body that, you know, could have been like a child, but it seemed to have a larger than normal head. Now, one interesting thing is many of the key personnel on the base at that time who had a connection to this were quickly transferred from the wing commander on down, indicating that if you know, you knew something, they tended to split you up, so to speak, so you couldn't talk about it. Oh, within a matter of weeks or whatever. Now, the security policeman told me that he was transferred within a few days. Matter of fact, he was taken to Wright-Patterson within the day or two and debriefed by a number of people and essentially told not to talk about it anymore. Now, his story to me was that, you know, they heard this going on the radios, and they heard that this chase was on, that the alien had been shot at Fort Dix and they were chasing it towards McGuire. At least for whatever reason, it chose to run towards McGuire Air Force Base, and that both the state police and the military police were, you might say, chasing this person or alien, whoever it was. They came from what looked like a UFO. As I understand, it was a disc-shaped craft. They indicated to me that the UFOs had been in the area for quite some time that evening, and that they had them on radar, and that the tower operator had seen them, and some of the other aircraft in the area had apparently seen them as well. 6 or 8 people guarding the body, and then there was the commander of the security police unit, and then we were told, a few of us in the command post, and I assume that General Sadler was briefed about it. But I had personally never seen anything. until about 1962. We were flying tankers over England, and London Control asked us to intercept a UFO. And we happened to be done with our refueling mission, and we accepted the assignment. We were on just over the North Sea, and they asked us to fly to the center of England, and we were doing, I don't know, some 400 miles an hour in a dive down to intercept this object. And they gave us headings, and it was pretty much hovering in the rough Stonehenge area, Oxford, Stonehenge area. And we got about, I'm not exactly sure, 20, 30 miles out, and I got it on radar. And it was a very large return. We used to fly up by the Firth of Forth Bridge, which is kind of like the San Francisco Bay Bridge, but it's a very large bridge. And the return was similar to that in size and in intensity. In other words, it was a very large radar return. And obviously London Control had it on their radar, and they were vectoring us to this object. And when we got about a mile from it, as a matter of fact, we were diving on the thing, and the whole aircraft was shaking, and it just took off into space at several thousand miles an hour, almost directly up. And now this was at night. It reminded me a lot of the shuttle launch, something going up very quickly at a high rate of speed. And frankly, at least to my knowledge, we had nothing like that capability. Matter of fact, we said something about, have any kind of rocket launches from that area, and they said no, that we could just continue on our mission. I believe that there was something, going on out there. My best guess is that it was a disc-type craft, but a fat disc. At least there was lights, something like this at the top and at the bottom. It was more than just a straight plate-like object. It had a dome on the top of it. If the radar return was accurate, it was probably just guessing, 500 yards long or something. I mean, a huge thing. Something that bothered me a little bit, that they were very friendly as we're doing the intercept on the thing, and once the intercept was made and it had, essentially we chased it away, they didn't want to talk about it any further. We wrote it in the navigator's log, fairly detailed. Yeah, this is Briarwood Lake in Medford, New Jersey. And we had just moved into this house, and in any case, we were asleep about, I'm just guessing, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm asleep with my wife, and suddenly the room got very bright in the middle of the night. So I got up out of bed and opened up the shade, but most of the light was even coming through the shade. And looked outside, and I don't know if most people have seen a submarine surfacing with all the water coming off. Well, this was like a disc about 30 feet in diameter surfacing. And what looked to me like water coming off of it. But frequently I had flown the Atlantic and Pacific and so on, and seen the aurora borealis, or the northern lights, and around the craft were this ionization very similar to the aurora borealis. And it just kind of moved across the lake for a while and flew off at a fairly high rate of speed. At that time, this particular colonel was telling me that the F-106 had set the world's record for speed, and they had these aircraft going as fast as they could, so to speak, diving on this UFO that was hovering in a valley in Colorado. And just like us, when they got near the craft, it took off and left them standing still, and they were doing like 1,500 or something, whatever the top speed was at that time for these aircraft in a dive. That these, who, you know, is flying these, have this capability that is far beyond anything we've had for years and years. I think even today, something, at least in my opinion, non-human. That has a different form of propulsion and is coming here and you know, doing reconnaissance and taking minerals or whatever it is that they happen to be doing. There are things going on, and they are being seen. You know, talked to a number of astronauts who have seen them. Talked to other military pilots and the like who have seen them, and I remember Captain Ramage, who I used to work for in Athens, Greece, and he had one during the Korean War fly right off his wing, stay with him for like an hour, and do not only off his wing but do, you know, acrobatic things around his aircraft. And I don't know the exact percentage of people, but probably 10% of the pilots and air crews that you ask about it have had sightings. A few years ago, a colonel who was in intelligence had his whole B-52 crew see it. I think that it's time that these various programs come out. Now, one of the things that I've found is that the way it's been kept secret to a big extent is the fact of through ridicule. If it always had been just top secret, I think most of the world would know about it tonight. But they put in a kind of a ridicule factor which made people, you'll hear somebody telling a story like this, they'll say, well, he must be crazy that he believes in UFOs. And they brought this out. When anyone saw anything, you know, there'd be two people, we'll say one has funny hair and looks wild and so on, and the guy standing next to him is a police officer. Well, they always interviewed the wild guy and never put the police officer on the screen. My experience has been an awful lot of policemen have seen these, an awful lot of FBI have seen these, an awful lot of military has seen it. And he might have the, like, at times I used to carry nuclear weapons. And in other words, I was mentally fit to carry nuclear weapons, but I'm not mentally fit if I see a UFO. Well, this criticism and this ridicule has, I think, done more to keep the story coming out than almost anything else.
My interest in UFOs was not very great until 8 years ago. When I was Minister of Defense, of course, I got sighting reports, but I was too busy unifying the Canadian Armed Forces to be able to worry about them. So I wouldn't say I was a skeptic. I wasn't. I was an agnostic. I didn't know whether they were real or whether they weren't. But there was a young man in Ottawa whose name was Pierre Junot. And he started sending me things about the UFO file. One of the things he sent me one day was a book called The Day After Roswell, and I found it absolutely fascinating. While I was reading the book, my nephew said, "What are you reading?" I told him what it was, and he said, "Well, I'm a skeptic." A couple of days later, he phoned and said, "I was talking to the general." The general, incidentally, was a former United States Air Force general that he had met in his aviation career. And I told him what you were reading, and he said, "Every word of it is true and more." I phoned the general. Before I could even say hello and how are you, he said, "Every word is true and more." And he said that there had, in fact, been face-to-face meetings between United States officials and extraterrestrials from other star systems. And with that assurance, I decided to go public and say, for the first time, of anyone of cabinet rank from the G8 group of countries, that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over your head, and said it without any restriction whatsoever. I would not attempt to say how many terrestrials are living on Earth at the present time. I have reports of several species that are here and have bases here. There's one species that looks something like a praying mantis. And then the short grays are the ones that you see in the cartoons. The tall grays look much different. They look more like humans. And the Nordic blondes, for example, are so similar to humans that they can walk down the street and not be detected. None of them are exactly the same. They are way ahead of us in medicine, agriculture, and still, I guess, presumably in technology.
Can we start at the beginning with your military career and just walk through what exactly your experiences were?
Was drafted into the military and got into the U.S. Army. After that, I was sent to the Signal Training Center in eastern United States.
What year would this be?
58. I went through the Signal Training course. And at that time, I went through the radio teletype course and also the cryptography course, crypto. They had 5 instructors that were getting out of military service. So they pulled the top 5 students, and I was 3rd. And after one day, my boss came to me, and he said, how would you like to, make some extra money? And I said, oh, money is good. So he's explained to me that he could put it through, would have to get a top secret White House Q clearance for the job, And I thought, boy, must be a pretty exclusive thing, And I said, well, what is this? And he said that I'm director for the CIA. I started working with him on the project he was on. And that was Project Blue Book, which was kind of partially a fraud.
You're saying some of the Blue Book cases were completely fictitious?
Yes. But the cases that we got came from, I think it was Fort Belvoir, Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Fort Belvoir?
Yeah, and it didn't come from the Pentagon, or it didn't come from CIA headquarters. But we would get reports about a certain sighting that they had in Mexico or Italy or something like that. And then we had people that would follow through on it, that would go out and interview the people to see if they were nutcases or if it was real. I was coming into the Army fresh off the farm, so I really didn't have much knowledge of anything, but my boss filled me in on Project Blue Book and what they had found so far, as far as grays and aliens and the Roswell incident. In fact, I had to take a vow that I wouldn't tell anybody. A lot of it for 40 years and more of it for 50 years, which is up in 2010.
You're doing all this crypto work. You're looking at images, photographs, video. It's 1958, maybe the fall of 58. What happened after this?
At that time, the Project Blue Book thing kind of went pot, you know. If you remember, back in those days, they kind of declared it as a nothing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
they were telling the world all UFOs are misidentifications, hoaxes,
balloons.
Psychological issues, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my boss came to me and he said, "We've both got a new assignment." And he said, "Oh," I said, "Where are we going?" "Oh," he says, "We're going to the Capitol. We're going to be part of the Eisenhower push." He's trying to find out something about all about these aliens that MJ-12 was supposed to find out, but never sent back reports to him.
The MJ-12, the UFO control group, were they calling it MJ-12 at that time? Yes.
They called us in, went into the Oval Office, and President Eisenhower was there and Nixon, and they said, we called the people in from MJ-12 from Area 51 and S4, but they told us that the government had no jurisdiction over what they were doing. So being a general, past general, you didn't tell them to go to hell without any real good reason, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I want you and your boss to fly out there. I want you to give them a personal message. He says, I want you to tell them, whoever is in charge, tell them that to get in, they have this week, coming week, to get into Washington and to report to me. And if they don't, I'm gonna get the First Army from Colorado and we're gonna go over, we're gonna take the base over. I don't care what kind of classified material you got. We're gonna rip this thing apart.
Eisenhower was going to invade
Area
51.
Yeah, with the First Army.
So you go out with your superior.
Yes.
You fly out. You land. What happens? Can you describe this whole process? What you saw?
They took us the 13 or 15 miles south to S4 and like different garage door openings. And in these garage door openings, they had like different saucer crafts. The very first one had the Roswell craft in. It was kind of crashed up, but apparently every alien that was in it died except for a couple.
So you see the Roswell craft, and what are some of the others that you see?
Well, the Roswell craft was really strange because it looked like real heavy aluminum foil. We could rock next to it, and you could rock it. The whole thing probably weighed 150, 300 pounds.
Could they tell what the source of power was of this craft?
Yeah, it was like a reverse gravitational thing of some kind. In fact, one later on, I got the mathematical code for reversing gravity in a 3x5 card. I guess there are different types of grays and so on.
How did you see that evidence?
Well, at the later on at S4, we viewed the autopsy film, and then the colonel said, "What we've got in here is we're interviewing a gray alien."
All right, right there. How did you feel at that moment?
Well, I thought, boy, we had no idea we were going to see the real thing. All we saw was film.
You had to have a little bit of heart racing at that
Yes.
moment.
My boss was able to go in and had like a partial interview with him.
What did this gray alien look like? Could you describe them a little bit?
This one looked a little bit oriental.
So I'm just wondering if it looked almost human, what about this didn't look human?
No, it didn't look human as far as the skin tone and basically the shape of it and the size.
How was its head size compared with a normal human, for example?
Brain was kind of a little bit bigger, and some of the nose was very, very small, and the ears were just like holes. Mouth was very small.
Now, why were they bringing you out here at all, anyway, to see an alien? What was the point?
To go back and tell the president they actually had one, and Eisenhower and Nixon were there, and also Hoover was there. So he asked us what was going on, and we told him about the alien and the whole situation, and the black projects and so on. And he was just totally shocked. He appeared for the first time to be worried. You know, like he was worried.
I would think that Eisenhower would, I mean, he certainly knew that flying saucers were real.
Yes.
He knew that there were aliens. So I guess I'm just wondering, what would he have been, really surprised about?
Surprised about the black programs. Eisenhower said, gotta keep this thing completely secret. You know, can't talk about this.
When they found you, what happened?
I was going to a grocery store. Two guys in black suits come out of a black Lincoln town car and came over to see me. And they told me that I better not publish anything or talk to Linda about any more things. So at that time, I did, I stopped.
That was enough to intimidate you.
Yes. Rather remain anonymous. Never show my face on anything.
Really, thank you for doing this.
Yes, this was, I guess, kind of a good idea because I feel much better having talked about it. I kind of feel like there's a load off my shoulders.
Really?
Because I had an awful lot of secrets that I had kept over the years.